Let's talk about Group F, the final group. Portugal, Turkey, Czechia, and Georgia. Let's preview these teams, go through what we can expect, look at their squads, and kind of see how they got here and what to expect moving forward. There'll be some betting tips along the way. Of course, all our videos are available to you on Ready Bet Action. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. We're doing a giveaway once this video gets to 1,000 likes. We will be giving away a Euro jersey of your choice. All you have to do is like the video, so we get that 1,000, subscribe to the channel, and then make a comment so I can find you in there. But let's look at what we might expect based on the sports book numbers. We should expect to see Portugal win this group. And again, after that, it's all kind of up in the air. Turkey likely to come in second, followed by Czechia, and then Georgia in fourth. And you can see that there's not a whole lot of value to bet on anything in this group, unless you think Georgia can qualify, which I am skeptical of. You kind of see that, where the number gets closest to zero on one of these lines is what is most likely to happen. So you can see Portugal is expected to land somewhere in between the quarters and the semifinals, where Turkey is likely going to qualify but not get past the round of 16. Same for Czechia, and Georgia likely to not get out of the group at all. Well, let's dive into Portugal and take a look at this team, because this is an exciting team. They were in one of the groups, in Group J, that had to play 10 games. Well, they won all of them, scoring 36 goals and only giving up 2. Cristiano Ronaldo scored 10 of those goals, which is absolutely insane. He scored 50 goals for Al Nassr this year, breaking all kinds of records. The dude may have lost a step, I don't know, but he can still score a goal. We're going to talk about him in a minute. Let's still just talk big picture. Talking about Portugal right now. They have had a very interesting track record as of late. They lost to Belgium in the round of 16 in the Euro 2022. Famously lost in the World Cup 2022 quarterfinals to Morocco, shocking the world. In 2018 World Cup, they lost in the round of 16 to Uruguay. But of course, in 2016, they won the Euros. So outside of winning the Euros that 1 year, the 1 year where no one expected anything from them, whenever the expectation's been great, they have really underperformed. They now have a new coach, Roberto Martinez. Yes, that Roberto Martinez, who was with Belgium before this, now comes over, and he takes on a squad that just has so much talent. Another team that honestly really could put 2 different teams out there and be totally fine. Diego Costa has been so good for Porto and Portugal. I expect to see more of him. Cancelo for Barcelona, Mendes for PSG really do solidify a strong defense. I look for Man United. I thought had a really good year, despite Man United really struggling at times. I really hope Pepe doesn't play. That dude drives me crazy. As a Netherlands fan, I really struggle with the whole Iberian Peninsula when it comes to soccer. Just because they've beaten us, Spain beating us in the World Cup finals broke my heart. Portugal always seems to beat us, and we could be in path to play them again. But let's talk about this midfield, because this midfield is so good. Bruno Fernandes at Manchester United. I'm curious to see if they play him more centrally or on the wing. I think he's better centrally, but I understand wanting to make room for some of these other players. Then Vitinha for PSG, who I think is a lock to start. Palhinha playing for Fulham will most likely be in that center midfield position. And then you look at these forwards, and it's just so fun. You look at wingers like João Felix, who has been really good for Atletico Madrid, coming over on loan from Barcelona. Rafael Leao for AC Milan. Rafael Leao was one of my favorite players to watch. I do not typically allow myself to admit that about Portuguese players, just because of all the hurt that's been get into me by them. But even Pedro Neto for Wolves has had, when healthy, has had really good moments. But I feel like we're bearing the lead. Really, oh man, there's so many good. Diego Jota, I forgot about him. Bernardo Silva, I forgot about him. We really need to talk about what in the world do you do with Cristiano Ronaldo? If you're Roberto Martinez, this is the big question. You led your team in qualifying with the most goals. You just scored 1 million goals for Al Nassr. But for Portugal, at times, he has played somewhat selfishly and chooses to take a shot instead of passing it to open players. He still goes at 100%. His 100% isn't quite what it used to be. I think he's 38 years old. But I still think he's got it in him. I think Portugal will start Ronaldo. I think he will score many, many goals. And I think this Portugal team is going to be very, very, very tough to beat. The most likely outcome, according to the books, is the quarterfinals. And I think that that is the bare minimum for this team. Anything less than that, a round of 16 exit, I think would be a huge disappointment for Portugal. I think they'd be happy with the semis, but honestly, I think they think that they can win it. And I do too. I think they're one of the teams that could hoist the trophy if they can figure out what to do with Ronaldo. And I think Roberto Martinez, he's the type of kind of old school dude that I think he's like, you didn't bring him here to sit him. I think you want him on the pitch, and I expect him to be there. So it will be fun to see this Portugal team in action. Another team that can be super fun, but also super frustrating, is Turkey. Whenever you think they're going to be great, they just kind of disappoint. That's what happened in the Euro 2020, where a lot of us were super high on them. We had them as a dark horse, and then they lost all 3 games, only scoring once. Not ideal. But they did win their group. They won Group D. They went 5-2-1, averaging 1.75 goals, getting up 0.87 against. But again, you look a little deeper. Yeah, Croatia was in there. So that's good. Croatia's a tough team. And you finished ahead of them. But outside of them, Wales, Armenia, Latvia, not super, super, super tough. And they didn't qualify for the World Cup 2022. So tough to know what this team is going to look like. Their coach is named a little airplane because of like when you have a player, how he'd celebrate. But the dude's 5'8". That seems a little, I mean, yeah, that would be small for an airplane. Like putting little as a title for someone who's 5'8" just seems offensive as someone who's 5'8". But that's a story for another time. Turkey, in a recent friendly, also beat Germany, which was a super big deal. I could see Turkey showing up and being an exciting team, but I've said that before. One interesting storyline for Turkey is the fact that over 1 million Turkish people live in Germany. So I do think there could be this momentum that builds around them. I think a lot of people will come to their games. I think that when they're not playing Germany, they will very much feel like the home team. They do struggle at times against the press, which might not hurt them early on in the tournament. But if they do advance out of the group, I think it could be a problem for them. But there is a lot of hope. They do have a really fun squad. You look at their defense and goaltender. Not a lot of names really jump out from this group. A lot of players that play in the Turkish league. But when you look over at their midfield and attack, their forwards, it gets really, really exciting. Lanoglu for Inter was the Serie A Player of the Year in 2023, according to many. Koku, moving from Feyenoord to Benfica, has been very, very good. He's a strong player. Özcan is good for Borussia Dortmund when given the opportunity to play. And then you look at this offense, and there is so much to be excited about. You got the youth of players like Yildiz and Güler. Yildiz, fun story. His first ever start for Turkey was that game against Germany, and he scored to go up 2-1 at halftime. Then you have Güler, who plays for Real Madrid. I'll be curious to see him get some minutes and actually be playing on this in this tournament. It'll be fun to watch. The hopes are high again, and I think we could be disappointed again, but maybe not. Who knows? It feels really tough guessing. I think the worst case scenario is if they get grouped again, but it's definitely in the range of possibilities given their track record at tournaments. I think they should expect to make it to the round of 16, given the group that they're in. And I think they'd be ecstatic, super happy if they were able to make it to the quarterfinals. I kind of expect them to make it to the round of 16 and bail out there, but we'll talk about all the predictions later on. Let's jump into the Czech Republic, who were runners-up in Group E on their path to the Euros, behind the great Albania. So probably not great when Albania finishes ahead of you. They did beat Poland in qualifying, Faroe Islands, Moldova. They did draw with Czechia once. With Poland once. And then they lost to Albania and drew Albania. So not a great campaign. They did, as I mentioned, beat the Netherlands in the Euro 2020 round of 16 game, but then went on to lose to Denmark in the quarterfinals. In 2006, they didn't make it out of the group, and they did not qualify for the World Cups. But here we go, talking about Czech Republic. I think it's interesting to see, again, where so many of their players are. Not in the big leagues at all. You've got Kufal, who plays well for West Ham, but most of these guys are playing in the Czech Republic, and it'll be interesting to see if that can translate to this international competition with such great competition. Patrick Schick, forward for Bayer Leverkusen, and Holzek as well, who comes in off the bench, had great seasons. Again, Schick didn't start every game. Boniface was their primary striker, but Schick played super, super well when given the opportunity. Ernie is always really good for them. It'll be Susek again for West Ham. It'll be good to see this Czechia team try to qualify for the round of 16. And I expect that they will. I think they'd be ecstatic getting one game further, and it would be an absolute disaster if they did not advance. But again, I don't think advancement is a guarantee for Turkey or Czechia, given the competition, and certainly not for this next team, Georgia, who honestly should be happy to be here. This is their first appearance as the nation of Georgia. Some players, when the USSR would qualify, lived in Georgia, but that's not the same thing. Georgia qualified via the Nations League playoff. They beat Luxembourg 2-0 and then went on to beat Greece 4-2 in a dramatic penalty shootout. Georgia, let's be honest, they had a terrible campaign. They only won 2 games. They lost 4. They only beat Cyprus. They drew Scotland. They lost to Spain. They lost to Norway. So I don't think we should expect very much from this team. Super exciting that they're here. They went crazy when they qualified. It was super fun, but just too much to ask right now. Maybe in the future. They do have some exciting young players. Kasia on defense, I think, is the tried and true kind of stable there. In offense, of course, everyone knows Faracheskelier. I can never say his name. He's the star man up front. He plays wing for Napoli, helped them win the Scudetto, not this past season, but the one before. And then watch out for Mikio Tadze. I cannot say these names. For Metz, he's an up-and-coming star as well. I think his future looks really, really bright. Again, I just don't think it's going to be enough for this competition for Georgia to really do all that much. I think that best case scenario is if they get out of the group somehow. Likely, though, they'll be last place in this group. I think the worst case scenario would be if they get 0 points, if they can't even draw. I think it'd be super fun if they could steal a point somewhere. But if you look at the betting odds for them in match day 1 and match day 2, it doesn't look great. In their first game, plus 390 away. In their second, plus 370. So it just doesn't look very good for them. Turkey favored against Georgia. Portugal heavily favored against Czech, and Portugal also favored, but not quite as much against Turkey. My favorite bets for this group, we're going to take Portugal to win all their group games. We get that at plus 210. I just think that's nice value because they're so much better than all the other teams. And the fact that Georgia played Portugal played Georgia in their final game means they'll have to go after it in those first two. And Georgia, I think even if they play their backups, they'll still win. We're also going to take Portugal to win and score more than 1.5 goals versus Czechia. My predicted outcome or projected finish for this group, Portugal 9 points, Czechia 4 points, Turkey with 2, and Georgia with 1. So yeah, I do have Georgia having a pretty amazing point against Turkey, which will be super fun. Again, thank you for listening to the group betting guide, our preview here.